It just has to work for you, and you got to be good at using it.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time that you need it for real can't be the first time you don it.
Yeah.
You have to like sweat in it. You have to move. You have to be uncomfortable in it.
What is up, everybody? I have Jim to my right, Instructor Chris from Vortex Edge across from me. What's up, Chris? Good to have you back.
Good to be back.
This is awesome. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see a selection of plate carriers on the table here. If you're not, you can imagine. Chris, before we get into the topic of today's discussion, which is plate carriers, which I find have been used in a professional setting for a number of years. You have used them in a professional setting for a number of years. They're getting to be more commonplace in the civilian market. So, but before we kind of jump into the why somebody might need one, some of the terminology, things to look for in plate carriers, let's talk about you, Chris. So let's dive into a little bit about you, your background, and maybe some of your journey with plate carriers.
My kind of walk with body armor in general and plate carriers started back in 2003 when I enlisted in the Marine Corps. And that kind of evolved into different types and forms of the actual carriers themselves. And later on, when I got on with the Charlotte Police Department, it started from a very rudimentary, just everyday, over the head kind of uniformed kind of armor carrier, and that of course evolved all the way into a full-on entry SWAT guy setup. And then that again evolved when I got on the sniper team, and that was a whole another set of different kind of plate carrier and needs that I had to fulfill that role. And then as I've kind of left all of that civil work behind me, and I just became a dad and a husband and just a protector of my house, my needs kind of changed as well. So I mean, whereas like in 2003 I might have started in a plate carrier that looked like this. Now I'm just down to a small pad of armor for my daughter's backpack or something. You know what I mean? So it's kind of I've kind of run the entire gamut of what personal protection looks like in terms of like plate carriers all the way and every gamut or the full gamut of body armor.
Mm-hmm. So not all of them are created equal. There does seem to be quite a lot of differences.
Oh, yep, 100%. Yep.
What about, the why? Like you said, you're kind of in a different spot in your life right now, and I feel like a lot of people are in that spot. Like, for a person like me, just regular person, but also, family guy, not the TV show, just, regular family guy description. But I definitely see these things as something that I'm interested in. I haven't taken the step. I want to know more about it. I think hopefully the listeners are going to learn more about plate carriers today. Mm-hmm. I know I'm going to learn more about plate carriers today. But I guess what would be some motivations for me to be yep, I need to take that step?
Yeah. Yeah, and if you are the more casual observer, you're like, am I going to look like a LARPer? Mm-hmm. Is it stupid? I mean, admittedly, There's some people out there who are like, oh, no, it's not stupid. You absolutely need this kind of, whatever. But I think there's a lot of people that are, they kind of just more they like to listen, like to observe, keep to themselves. They're thinking about all this stuff. And they're like, man, is that really how far I need to go?
Right. And then there are the other people that are, critics of it that are like, dude, quit playing dress up.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. So my first reason I would throw out there is because you can. You know what I mean? Because you are an American citizen, you have the means to do so. If it's available, get it, and if you want it, get it. Just because you can't, that it doesn't, for me, it doesn't get any simpler than that.
That's good enough for me.
Mm-hmm. Send it, dude. Get in some stuff and get to know it intimately. You know what I mean? The next reason is a little more personal for me, and whereas maybe others that came from the background that I came from, I tend to see things a little differently. I deployed to countries where I saw firsthand where whether it was local or not, but a populace of people, of armed, somewhat trained, and equipped people picked on and preyed on their own seemingly kind of people who weren't armed and didn't have the stuff that you see here. You know what I mean? Or the knowledge, or just the ability to protect themselves. So for me, it was really frustrating because yes, we were there to kind of fight their fight, right? And like I just wish that they had the ability to do something about it. You know what I mean? Instead of just kind of handing things over to the army or to whatever to hopefully be able to fight that fight. But man, it would have been really cool if like the local populace would have been able to take up arms and defend themselves and maybe take the fight back to these groups. Al Qaeda, your ISIS, your Taliban and whatnot. Like man, they really did a good job of picking on people who just didn't have the means or ability to protect themselves. So I would say, as Americans, like we should look to be prepared to prevent that kind of that level of tyranny. Whatever context that you apply to it, like that's my other why. You know what I mean? Because I've seen the downfalls of not being prepared, and how much that sucks. You know what I mean?
I mean that's definitely a unique firsthand perspective gained through experience where like you've seen it, like you saw it happen, and maybe it's like some of its worst forms, right? And I'd say like hopefully, fingers crossed, like you never are put in a situation where you need something like this, right? But also like, are you gonna be like super bummed that I don't think you're ever going to be super bummed that you were prepared.
Right. 100%.
Right.
Like, I think you might be bummed.
Oh, boy, I really wish I didn't have
this armor just laying around.
Right. Like, I hope, like, if I got something like this, I'd be like, well, I hope I get proven wrong that I never needed it.
Right. The North Koreans never parachuted into my backyard.
Yeah.
Gee. Man, I had all this crap.
And I think it's the fact that as Americans that we take advantage of purchasing this type of stuff that prevents in many ways a lot of that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, dude, just go out there and get it. You know what I mean? Like I've never looked down on someone for, LARPing or doing any of that crap. Like if it's your money, but I will say that's caveated with like if you're gonna get it, you got to make sure that you're intimately familiar with it, you train with it, you're prepared to throw it on as quickly and efficiently as possible, and that you just don't hang a bunch of stuff on the front because there's real estate to do so. Like you got to make sure you can get to all your stuff. Like that's one thing I learned pretty early on. So again, just to kind of review, like because you can, and because it sucks to be taken advantage of.
Yeah, and can I even throw one other thing out there? Now, I'm not a guru when it comes to plate carriers and armor and all that stuff, but I know that I hang out in sort of other, I guess you could call it a hobby. It's not really, but whatever. I do other things that I do know more about. And one thing I see oftentimes is, and this is just almost like a PSA, if you will, people get gear like this, or they get gear like, okay, I'll say car parts and stuff. That's obviously what I was alluding to.
I thought you were actually going to start talking about welding your own plates.
No, I don't think I want to weld my own plates. I don't think that'd be very structurally sound. But a lot of times people get into this sort of thing, and it instantly becomes like a competition, of like who has the best thing. And I think what we'll get into, there's so many different types of plate carriers on the table right now. There's so many different shapes, sizes of people, applications, all this stuff. So to act like you ever have, the one right answer to all things, I think is incorrect. But I think people have to be really honest with themselves too and their gear. So you're talking about, hey, you need to really train with this stuff. If you get it, actually know how to use it. I think another element of that to add on top of that is be honest with yourself. You might, on occasion, if you're amassing this type of stuff, and hopefully you can get some information like we're going to talk about from experts here like Chris, you might sometimes get something that's not the best thing ever. You wish you didn't get it, whatever. I think you got to be honest with yourself in that regard. That comes from training with it. To at times be able to say like, yeah, I got this thing, I did all the research, I tried to get the best thing ever, and it's not any good. So you might have to go out and get something different or change the way. The worst is basically, when you have people who get something and either they don't use it at all and they tout it as the best thing ever, or they do use it and it's really not that great, but they're kind of embarrassed that they got it, and so they still try to defend it like it's the best thing ever. Like, again, it's not a competition. I think that especially when we're talking about stuff like this, with the preparedness mindset and all that, it's why make it a competition? Like if it works for you, it works for you. If you actually know how to use it and you can use it effectively, that's great.
Yeah, exactly. It like the price tag, that's a relative kind of idea. It doesn't really matter. It just has to work for you, and you got to be good at using it.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time that you need it for real can't be the first time you don it. Like, you have to sweat in it. You have to move. You have to be uncomfortable in it because
It's the only way to figure that
little
stuff out.
I'm always reminded of going on that Coos deer hunt, Mark, and I had never hunted Coos deer before in my life. I show up with a set of Razor UHD 12x50s and just think that I'm going to just be spotting Coos deer like I've got X-ray vision. And the guy sitting right next to me with a set of Crossfire 12x50s was spotting Coos deer circles around me. And it's because I'd never done it before. So in that case, I'd never been able to practice before. I thought a price tag would help me out. It didn't. So it's just proof.
Well,
great analogy.
I can't believe I brought up a hunting.
I can't believe it either. But now you're
so proud.
You're going to make me do it. I know we're talking, tactical
Sorry,
here today,
Chris,
but
I didn't mean to.
what happened?
Just go for it.
Well,
I did it first.
I just came off.
If Mark brings up a car comparison, I'm gonna freak out.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do that.
upside
Yeah. Yeah. Cats are chasing dogs. No, but I just came off a recent hunt. Had a couple of new items that I'd never tried before, right? And thought they were going to be I'm going to love it. And I ended up I was shocked, but I was like, oh no, I don't like this because of X, Y, Z. But I never. You weren't going to figure that out without just actually using it. And it sucks. It sucks to find it out. Then you know what I mean. But
it does. But then you got to be honest with yourself.
But then that's the way. That's the way
things shake out.
The cookie crumbles. So, what about? You've got 4, 5 different styles here. Maybe just 4. No, maybe 5. I don't know. We'll find out. Tune in at minute 45 when we actually find out if Mark can count to 10. What's some basic terminology? Because I feel like there's some commonality here, but also there's some differences in styles.
We're going to have to describe this for those who are listening. So if you are listening, we'll try to give you some idea of the vocab we're going to be using. Do they all have kind of the same aspects of their construction? It's just different shapes and cuts and things?
Yes. So one of the most glaring commonalities that I'm looking at now is that these 3 at least all have a cummerbund. So a cummerbund is basically, for the most part, a part that connects to the back panel of the armor, the carrier itself. And either, on this one, I kind of threaded, this is something I sewed together, by the way.
Look at you.
Yeah, so, or it actually slips through a kind of pocket-like structure like this, right? So where all that kind of tucks in, and that cummerbund actually fits around your waist. So you can imagine how low it has to be on the actual body of the plate carrier itself.
Right. So it connects the front to the back, and it keeps everything nice and tight.
Yep.
Right.
Now this cummerbund, now just the cummerbund comes in a bunch of different kind of styles, right? This very early scalable plate carrier that the Marine Corps used to issue has an inner elastic cummerbund.
Okay.
Right. That kind of attaches first, and then you get the panel that comes down, and then these hook panels kind of tie into the
front
loop,
of the plate carrier.
Right? And then you get another layer of security, and that kind of all kind of gets held together just like that.
Okay.
All right? This is the only plate carrier that I have that has that inner elastic cummerbund, right? The rest of them don't have that, so it's just a matter of just marrying up an inner flap with the cummerbund, and then that all gets secured by the outer kind of edge or the outer surface of the plate carrier itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So all of these have some style of cummerbund.
It's kind of like wrapping yourself into a burrito.
Basically, yeah. Now you we're going to talk
of armor.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this a little bit, but that's that cummerbund actually plays a big role into the wearability and the comfort of the plate carrier. Like, you have to make sure that you're paying attention to the like sizing chart and seeing how much adjustability you have in a specific setup, because the last thing you want to do is like get a setup that just you cannot make work for your body type. Right.
Yeah.
Now there are a lot of companies out there that will let you get, like, say, a medium sized plate carrier, and that medium size usually relates directly to just the overall size of the carrier itself, not to the cummerbund. Like, you can buy a separate cummerbund that's another size, and then you can kind of customize it to yourself. So that's cummerbunds. One kind of a down and dirty kind of talk on cummerbunds. The other commonality that I have on some of these is the shoulder straps, right? So you see, like, this shoulder strap is kind of built in, right? So it's kind of all one piece with the exception of the front, and that kind of detaches. The idea there is that I can clip out of it and get out of it should, the vessel I'm in find its way into the bottom of the ocean. I can kind of ditch out of that thing pretty quickly. Whereas other setups have the same thing, but it's a little more complicated to get out of. And sometimes, like, shoulder straps will hide and kind of keep the overall assembly kind of get together, right? So whereas this one I would probably have to work a little harder to get out of, this guy I just open those straps up, hit the clip, and I'm out of it, right? So this was another product made by Eagle that the Marine Corps started issuing as well, and it's one of the main reasons why they liked it. It was really easy to ditch underwater, right? So the shoulder straps come in many different shapes and sizes and styles. This guy's more less user friendly in terms of how quickly I can get out of it. But if I built this one because I was going to SWAT school in Dane County when I started working here, and not a lot of concern about being around water. So
right.
I built this guy.
It's the capital of Wisconsin's on an isthmus, Chris.
I know. I should have taken one of these guys, but
never know.
This guy's been really good for me.
That water's so contaminated, you might just float.
Yep. So you've got cummerbunds, you got shoulder straps, and then the most important parts are the actual bags or the carrier themselves, right? A lot of manufacturers and a lot of people out there that are making these systems will offer, like, a front bag or a front flap, and that's just exactly what that is, the part of the plate carrier that covers the front of your body. And then they'll have a corresponding back flap, and that's just what goes on the back. And I've even seen some systems that don't even offer, like, a really built-up cummerbund like this. Is just like a strap that kind of clips together. And so you just have basically a front bag, a back bag, some form of shoulder strap, and then just a really basic cummerbund that just allows the plate carrier not to flop all over the place. Mm-hmm. All right, and so that's a really simplistic kind of setup. These are a little more involved with the cummerbunds that actually have, like, attachment points on some of these. All of these are the same, but then there are cummerbunds that are just slick, right? That just are literally there just to make sure that it's not moving all over the place on you, just kind of hugging you and keeping everything in place.
Yeah.
And will likely only have real estate to attach things on the front and on the back.
Okay.
There are other styles of elastic cummerbund that also have little pockets where you can put radios and all sorts of other stuff. So the stuff that's out there now is pretty utilitarian, and offers people a lot of adjustability and customizability. Customizability.
I think that,
right.
Yeah.
There are a lot of options out there, so you can really tailor these things to yourself and your needs.
I mean, it really is one of those things where it's like, what are you going to use it for?
Right, exactly.
Let me ask you this, was the fact that you can store things like rifle, pistol magazines, tourniquets, all the other stuff on these chest rigs, was that just sort of something that is kind of an ancillary benefit? You're like, well, I got all this gear on, I might as well stick stuff to it. Or is that actually a major reason why you maybe like to wear a chest rig? do you enjoy having all that storage right here? Is that a really convenient place to get to things like magazines and stuff? I'm curious.
So I'll say this. I know this is a plate carrier talk, but like these systems were all predicated on the fact that I had some sort of belt available to me as well, right?
Okay.
With the exception,
like a battle belt
right?
kind of thing.
With the exception of this guy, right here. I built this plate carrier during my sniping days on the police department, and so I have pistol, rifle. I used to have medical. I used to have a radio pouch. So this was all built so that if I was ever undercover or providing eyes on ahead of an assault force, that this was under. I can't say what type of vehicle it was, but in the vehicle, in the less than obvious vehicle that I was in, this was under one of the seats, and I can just grab that and throw it over whatever getup I was in. And it was clearly marked, had a badge, and I can just throw that on, and it was independent of any, because in a situation like that, I would never have the opportunity to put on my police belt or anything like that, or a duty belt or whatever.
Oh,
so this had to be like the solution.
Grab and
go, like soft armor, hard armor, ammo, medical if I need it. Grab, throw it on. I'm a cop, don't shoot me, and I'm going to support the assault force. Whereas other setups like this guy is a little more simple, right? I just have the 3 rifle mags across the front. I have medical kind of in this what's called a dangler pouch. This is a Faro Concepts kind of pouch here. And then I've got a tourniquet on that. And in here I've got a bunch of medical. But I don't have any pistol.
Okay.
Right? Because it's predicated on the fact that I have my pistol mags and at least 1 rifle mag on my battle belt with my holster and more medical on the back. So this is kind of a complementary plate carrier that I built for that set of circumstances.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why you see the no attachments on the right side, because I don't want anything kind of getting in the way of me drawing my handgun.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas this guy, I went all out. Like I put stuff everywhere. Like my radio pouch used to sit here. I used to have a med pouch.
Were you like concealed carrying your pistol in that case?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Like I was either appendix or 3 o'clock, just depending. There's times where like I was in a non-permissive environment undercover. I like absolutely could not carry anything. Like it was just kind of, I was just depending on the other guy in the van, just kind of having my back. But yeah, so this was my grab and go, different set of context and circumstances. This one, because it's so tall, right, gave me a lot of real estate. Maybe didn't lend itself to a belt, so I had to really, and that's why you see pouches everywhere. Like I've since taken a lot of those old issued Marine Corps pouches off of this thing, but I used to load this thing down. I used to have 40 millimeter grenades on there, medical. On the back, I used to have a water bladder on the back, just all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So these 3 really are unique in the fact that, like, I mean, what you see is basically a professional kind of evolution in how I built and carried armor on my body.
They can kind of turn into a pickup truck bed.
100%
for your body.
Yes. Yep.
Which I could see being great, but then also, like, depending on, again, like what you are likely to need.
100%.
Like, it's easy, and I've done it before in certain scenarios where, like, well, I could need any of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, paring it down to where it's, like, practical at the same time.
Yep.
You know?
And
if you're going to be would be wearing it for 15 minutes, maybe you don't need a water bladder.
Right.
Well, yeah, and what I guess somebody has to ask themselves if they're thinking about getting body armor. Like, what do they want the body armor for?
Right.
Like, do I want this as part of my home defense kit where I'm going to wake up and, like, I'll be in some, like, shorts and no shirt and I want to, like, throw something on quick and run to my kid's room? Or do I want to actually have this for, and if you have it for this reason, again, you can, so go for it. Do I want to have it for when there's North Koreans landing in my backyard parachuting in? You know what I mean? Like, in which case, then, am I going to have, like, some room that I go into where I turn into, like, Captain America for 5-10 minutes? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to figure that out.
Yeah, some of the biggest elements I ask myself when preparing to set up a plate carrier is how long am I going to have this thing on, and what supporting pieces of kit am I going to be wearing with this body armor? If I had a belt, if I had a pack, then I tried to keep things pretty slick. Because that led me to believe like I would be inserted somewhere We would move on foot, and we would get to a place where I had access to the rest of the stuff I was carrying on my back.
Gotcha.
So, whereas if like when I was an entry guy, like, I mean, I had breaching equipment, extra bangs on my back. It was just like, we went heavy because we were only there for a little bit, and then we would load up and pick up water bottles from the van and that's what we would drink. I really didn't have a big need to have a bunch of hydration sources on my person, right?
Yeah.
But then, like, enter something like this where I had the bladder and I had like a little Nalgene pouch. Like I went heavy,
you were in a
heavier.
desert.
Right, exactly. So it like time and context definitely came into play when I was making my decisions as to what I was gonna hook onto my plate carriers, for sure.
What about? I mean, we're talking about plate carriers. And even in that one over there, you were talking about, like, I think a combination of soft and hard armor. But there's more than one type of plate as well.
Right. There's a lot of stuff out there. I don't have much experience with like steel and some of the other things that are out there. I've only stuck to ceramic.
Okay.
Because I've seen firsthand how like a ceramic plate is really good at getting hit once and not like changing shape, not losing a lot of its integrity and taking hits in other places. So I've always been a big fan, and now I need to predicate that I've never been shot before in plates, so I can't speak to like the integrity of one versus the other. I just know that the dampening effect and the rapid loss of energy in a ceramic plate is something that that attracted me over like a steel plate.
Okay.
Right? And also, we were dealing with threats that oftentimes came from like the ground up. So it wasn't really a lot of penetrating trauma this way, like bullets, right? The IED threat was there, right? And like, I never corroborated this for myself, but like a steel plate would generally like direct stuff up, whereas like a ceramic plate was really good at dampening, and not directing a lot of stuff upwards. So, those are just all considerations that I personally took into account. And plus, like, we were always issued ceramic plates, so they were always kind of just around. So and I'm gonna throw some other terminologies out there. We started with SAPI plates, which is like a good level 3, and we'll talk about the different levels and everything. But it was a really good plate, and then enter like something like an ESAPI, which is, gosh, pound for pound, like 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds per plate heavier than its predecessor, the SAPI plate. And of course, these are all like relative Marine Corps terms, but it was much heavier plate, right? Able to withstand more direct impacts, more repeated impacts. And so those were just kind of around, and they were here to stay. So all the armor that I kind of invested in, I had to make sure like it was cut and specific to that plate, right? So it doesn't matter what plate or what style of plate you go with, ceramic, metal, whatever's out there. I think there's even like you had mentioned a couple. Those are the main two that I know.
Yeah. I'm familiar with it. Seems like you can get like a metal plate, a ceramic plate, or soft armor. And
Yep.
And there's more. I don't know.
Yeah, you have to make sure. You got to make sure that whatever you invest in fits your style of plate, your thickness of plate, your cut of plate. That's another consideration.
You mean like of the carrier?
Of the
itself?
carrier, yeah.
Okay,
They have to jive together, or you're going to be pretty frustrated.
Is a person like so? I mean, here's a question: do they generally like come like if I was be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go for it. Like, does it come with, or like it's always like it's generally separate, or there's like a recommended one for it?
So very good questions. For example, this guy here has soft armor that it came with.
This is the Marine type one.
This is that scalable plate carrier, right? So this came with level, I want to say 3 at the time, armor.
Okay.
Right.
Now, what is the soft armor going to do?
So that.
Is that good for like pistol rounds or something?
Well, it depends, right? Because even the soft armor, so the levels of protection aren't specific to the material of the armor, whether it's metal. It's just it almost doesn't matter what the armor's made of. It's what it can stop.
Yeah,
right?
okay, makes sense.
So obviously, like soft armor comes in different thicknesses, different materials. They're all designed to stop different things depending on where they test, right? The NIJ, or the National Institute of Justice, does all these tests, and they're the ones that kind of slap the rating on a particular product, right? So when the Marine Corps started fielding these guys, and they came with the soft armor, they determined that this was level 3, level 3A, whatever it was at the time. So this particular carrier has both soft armor, but it also has and I'm opening this up, guys, what you're hearing there. So I'm looking at the front flap of the plate carrier itself, and it has a bag for a plate.
Okay.
Right? And so because these were Marine Corps specific, I know that these would fit my ESAPs like easily, right? And so a lot of these guys also have an inner, and then we actually have access to the soft armor in there. You can see what that looks like, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So if you needed to, you can take it out. You can like go over it. I was a really sweaty dude, so like if I didn't do this or air this thing out, it would turn into either a science experiment, or like the smell of death would be following me everywhere I went. So I would have to like take my soft body armor out and just like wipe it really quick with a damp towel, and then it was good enough, and maybe spray it with some Febreze or something. But usually when you open up a one of the bags, whether it's the rear bag or the front bag, you'll have access to whatever soft armor you may or may not have with the plate carrier, and you'll also have a plate bag inside, and oftentimes that plate bag will also have a manner of keeping it in place. So in here, guys, what I'm looking at is an inner compartment inside of that flap where you stick the plate in, and then you have this hook and loop that kind of closes so that there's no way that plate can like just fall out of the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's all pretty secure in there.
It's a little reminiscent, Mark, of some of the hunting packs you see. God, what is wrong with me today?
Jim, is that you?
Trying to distribute their weight properly, keep it from all like sagging down, and just getting all
just
crappy.
Keeping stuff where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, the only thing I will say is that this is a pretty feature-rich plate carrier, right? But man, even like in like a thick camouflage top, right? Like you would feel like over time you would feel all of this like digging into your body.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff going on here on the backside that's gonna get uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's another thing, man. Like you can get into a super feature rich plate carrier. And guys, what I'm talking about here is just that flap that kind of holds the plates into the front bag. But yeah, you over time and over like a movement of like five clicks, or what, a click being 1,000 meters, it would become pretty sucky there pretty fast. Another part where I felt a lot of friction, not just like on the front, on the inside edges of the bags, but the shoulder straps. If you get a plate carrier that like had less than ideal shoulder straps, you're gonna find that out pretty quickly as well. Like especially under load, it gets pretty uncomfortable. Like these are actually pretty decent. This is one of my favorite shoulder strap systems because it's just nice and clean on the inside, right? Whereas you get this guy, and it has like the possibility for these straps between your shoulder and the material,
and they're just right on the top, right where you got the bony part of your shoulder.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised I haven't cut those off yet.
Yeah. Well, and then I'm thinking too, like, okay, this is like it looks, or has, I guess, parallels to like a backpack shoulder strap, right? Like lots of padding. But like, what if you're wearing? I'd assume at times you might be wearing a backpack too.
Yeah, and that's
so now you got double
strappage.
Double strappage.
Yeah. No,
how does that work?
Yeah, so this is a perfect example because this is actually a plate carrier that I would infill with and also have my sniper pack on. And by sniper pack, I meant like I had my duty AR or my Mark 18 kind of slung, and then I was carrying my bolt gun and pack on my back, and ammo and some water to be in position for a day or two. So it was really important to me that the shoulder straps were spot on, or I was going to be unhappy. Right?
Yeah, quick.
So yeah, very quick. So Here, I'll kind of open this one up for you guys. So, guys, what I'm doing here is I'm opening the front flap of this Eagle plate carrier. All right, so this one did have a couple enclosures on the front, right? But this was just for a pouch that used to sit up here and kind of hang below. I never used that personally because I just felt it got in my way, and I just stored medical in other places. But this is what the inside edge of that, or the inside face of that plate carrier looks like, and you can see where even like my sweat and my body kind of wore off the label here. But anyway, but these shoulder straps, like I said, really smooth, really comfortable, nice padding, and also I should say that what I did with this plate carrier is that I actually installed some old armor, not old armor, but so when I got on the SWAT team, I was allowed to. I kept my patrol vest, and every couple of years you get a new one, right? So I just took some of that armor and I put it in here and kind of bolstered the protection.
Okay.
Right. So then, in addition to that, I of course had some hard plates in here, and so that's kind of what all that looks like. But I mean, you can see it's actually pretty slick. Right, this padding actually felt pretty good on my lower back, and it kind of actually helped me with carrying the load. But pretty simple design. It was actually pretty comfortable, like I said, with the pack on, and the shoulder straps would just sit on top of each other. I rarely ever on my pack there was a way to kind of tie into these, but I never did that because I just liked the ability to just put it down whenever I got in position. And just be not uncomfortable.
So you mentioned when you're looking for plates, the hard plates and stuff, you got to make sure that you're getting the right cut of plate, if you will, if that's the right terminology, the right shape and size of the plate. Like this vest here, the what do you call it, the scalable
plate carrier, the SPC
plate carrier. Yeah. So this looks like it would take a larger plate,
taller plate
than the one that you were just describing here, the Eagle plate carrier, because this is a little bit more narrower when it comes up to like your upper chest. It looks like this one's just shaped almost like a full-on large rectangle, whereas that one has a little bit more like contouring, which I imagine is more comfortable for you when you're trying to bring your arms around the front or be a little bit more mobile with your arms and stuff. But are you sacrificing a lot when you go to something like this with the plate shape, or is that just kind of advancements that we found where, hey, actually we can give the user a little bit more flexibility? And
I would say my first kind of exposure to war, right? It was all about like just not. It was like accepting that you were going to be shot, right? And you needed as much protection as possible, right? Which is why like this plate carrier, I believe, and another version of it used to have the nickname the HESCO. Right, because it was just as big as a HESCO barrier, right? And just people wanted as much protection as possible. So this was really good at that, but you lost a lot of mobility, right? Especially kind of up here in the shoulders. Where enters something like this, which is specifically cut with the shooter in mind, and this is something that came to be known as the shooter's cut or a swimmer's cut. Gave you a lot of mobility. Especially in and around the shoulders and your joints up here. But yes, did you lose a little real estate like with this like 2 by 3 inch kind of section that's no longer protected? Sure. But the only thing, I mean, you got to think that what's really here, right? For some of us, it's maybe like some pec meat.
Yeah,
right?
Mostly just meat.
Right. So it's kind of one of those give and takes. Right, whereas you're losing about 2-3 inches of real estate in protection, like you're gaining a lot of mobility, and like the more, every time we went back over there, like we valued mobility more over just like sitting and staying and fighting. Like we in Iraq and in Afghanistan we operated in small teams, so mobility was like our best friend. Like having the ability to like pick up and go, throw something on like this, and get out of Dodge was something that we valued.
I imagine that probably happens. I think it happens in almost anything that involves gear carrying. People usually start out with too much, and then they find that it really kind of gets boring or annoying or dangerous or whatever, being a really tough sitting duck.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, maybe I'll sacrifice some of that preparedness or toughness or something like that, just so that I can move quickly.
Yep.
Or move a lot more. That is funny how that works. Yeah.
Yep. I heard the term being thrown around early on when, in my professional careers, like, ounces equal pounds. I never really bought into that. I always erred on just carrying what I needed or what I felt I needed. So I wasn't the guy who was measuring things or weighing things. Like, I was going to carry what I felt like I needed to get the job done, and then. That, of course, then I hit my 30s, and it's like, oh wow, this stuff is starting to add up, and like you're a little more judicious about what you carry on your back and what you can get away with.
Yeah, I should figure out how to need less.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
And I would assume through that experience, you're like, okay, I've carried this 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't used it 10 times.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
That's a great way to think about it. Yeah.
But you're only, again, it goes back to using it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the only way you're going to figure that
Right.
out.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about plate carriers, right? And we were talking a little bit about the materials that those plates can come in, but we're talking about weight a little bit here. Like, are the ceramic plates maybe other than soft armor the lightest weight?
Yeah. So between those three, I put them in the middle. Right. Steel almost inherently is pretty heavy, but I mean, even then, like so this is relatively an empty plate carrier.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll hand this over to Jimmy, but you can see, man, those E-Sappies in there are pretty heavy. I mean, the only thing that plate carrier has is some medical equipment and some pouches. Other than that, I don't
even have the load
there's
mags
there's
in.
not even mags in there. Yeah.
Nope. So
yeah, that adds up.
It adds up, especially because I had those E-Sappies kind of laying around. I threw them in this one. Now this one doesn't have any soft armor. Like, this is all plate carrier.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So now if I were to take the soft stuff out of here and put it in, this is a London, like I said, this is a London Bridge plate carrier that I kind of built for SWAT school that I'm holding up here on my right. So yeah, I never got around to putting soft armor in there, but man, it's hefty, right? Those E-Sappies kind of add up. But yeah, I would say, to answer your question, I would put ceramics kind of there in the middle between the two.
Yeah. Now we've alluded to the ratings, and I'm not going to hold you to, because the ratings are actually, there's a lot going on in those ratings, so I'm not going to hold you to memorizing all that and spitting it out. I'm sure it's easy stuff you can Google. But basically, you do have different levels, and this is another thing that I've seen a wide variety of theories on. You've got levels of body armor and plates that seem to be able to stop all the way up to, like 7.62 rounds. I'm sure you could probably, if you just are willing to be a walking steel trap, you could stop anything,
Yeah.
But the more relatively available types, you can stop a lot, or you can stop relatively kind of a smaller amount. The expense goes up when you're stopping a lot bigger things. And so it's kind of been, when I've seen these different levels and I've been shopping around, like what plates am I going to get? What carrier am I going to get? Usually everyone's first inclination is to be like, I want to stop everything. But now I'm seeing people again, and it's kind of this evolution maybe of people wanting to go lighter, faster, not punish themselves so much with how they're carrying. They're now getting all the way to these, what do they call it, the special threat plates or something like that are even just like these real small kind of little things, just doing like almost the bare minimum, if you will. Like what all is going on in there? What do people have options, and why would they choose the different types?
I think as kind of technology kind of advances, I think that we're going to start seeing lighter and stronger stuff come out. Like back when all this stuff was available, I mean, level 4 wasn't even on the table yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now we're accomplishing level 4, at weights that were only seen at like 3A. You know what I mean? So just, and I just threw that term out there, the A kind of designator is kind of considered that like a half in the lesser direction. So like if you ever hear like something like is level 2A, for example, it's actually 1.5, right? So not quite strong enough to...
A is for almost.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly, right.
It's 2 almost.
So like here, for example, like something that's level 3A, it's actually 2.5.
Okay.
Right.
That's
so it's
very confusing.
Right. It's not quite the level of like a full-on level 3 kind of armor product, but it's close, and that's why things end up with an A designation. Also, shout out to Premier Body Armor. I know those guys pretty well. They're from the Carolinas, and that's where I printed off this really quick guide. It's actually one of the top Google things that come up, results that come up when you just type in protection levels.
Oh, right? What all do they say?
So, like a level 2A is only going to stop like 9 mil and 40.
Okay.
Right. And generally speaking, like an FMJ. You know what I mean? And again, a 2A being like that 1.5 level.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of companies won't even invest the time into manufacturing level 1 stuff because of how little. And I mean, it's just like your T-shirt is probably level 1. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's almost just even like a.
Like just the shell of one of these is probably level 1, like that thick Cordura material.
Yeah. I mean, like 2A sounds like
a BB.
The bare minimum of like why
you'll be hard pressed to find a company making anything less than a 2A. I would say, So then level 2, it's your gamut there is 9 mil to 357 Magnum, generally speaking, right? And then again, going off my notes here, a level 3A, 357 SIG, all the way to 44 Magnum.
Okay.
Right? And then now, that's 2.5. Now, when you go into a level 3, that's when you start getting into some of your rifle calibers.
Right.
Right? And then I think there's level 3A products out there, and generally speaking, like manufacturers will kind of make their bread and butter between like 3A and now like level 4.
Yeah.
Like that's where like they'll spend the majority of the kind of resources in developing product, right? Level 3, it says that outside of armor piercing rounds, like they should stop most rifle rounds, right? Now level 4, now those are your penetrators, right? Like your rounds that are designed to have a like your MA55s and stuff like that. That's what that level 4 is more designed for. It's going to stop penetrating rounds. So again, all this stuff is available online. Heck, I've even seen where some companies will advertise that like their level 4 will stop like 30 cal piercing rounds.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, it's actually pretty impressive stuff.
Even if it's stopping it, I don't want to get hit with it.
Yeah, just don't.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
What is that special threat thing that I see? I think I'm using the right terminology. It's like this real. It's bare minimum almost in protective level, and it's cut very, very in that swimmer's cut, like you said. I mean, it seems like it's just trying to give you the absolute bare minimum, but some people are starting to kind of like that.
Yeah,
is that the right term that I'm using?
Yeah,
Isn't it called, like, special threat or something?
So a couple different companies make some products that I've seen. I know that I had a special threat plate that was kind of, and I won't go into specifics because it was very experimental at the time that I kind of got my hands on it. But Premier had a product that was ceramic in weight, but it was a layering of a bunch of different things that made it super, super strong. And it was, I believe it was a level 3 or a level 4 product. But they're starting to be, because of it's just overlapping material, you can shape it and cut it to anything. You know what I mean? So like I have special threat plates that I have like for like my kids' backpacks, for like a pen holder that has that stuff in there. But it's a really good advancement in technology. I think it's going to really help people kind of get into plates and armor that really suit their mission, right?
Yeah.
So like for me now, I'm not like kicking indoors, that anyone can know of, but but like I am like putting armor and plates into like backpacks and stuff, and so it's really, really cool to kind of have that available as well. Like the same companies making stuff for this are making backpacks and backpack armor. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's something that's really cool.
Do you think, man, this is a difficult question to ask because it's an it depends answer. I know it is. For the average person who's thinking about getting a plate carrier, for whatever sort of reason, I want to have some preparedness level. I don't have anybody that I think is going to be trying to storm my house anytime soon with all kinds of, small arms and things, but hey, you never know. Should they try and get the maximum level of protection that they can afford? Or is there kind of like, because some of that stuff can get pretty pricey.
Yeah.
I was looking around, like the level 4 stuff. I mean, it starts to get, it's like more expensive. Then you get to level 4 and it's like, whoa, that went way up. Is it like you should wait around and save up until you can get that maximum level of protection at the time? Or is it kind of like, no, you should be, if you can right now afford 3A or, level 2 or something like that, that's okay.
I would say I would dissuade anyone from looking at anything lower than 3A.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then beyond that, if you can put a couple, another $100 or $150 towards a 4, I'd probably do that as well. Mm-hmm. Just if weight and if that's a deal breaker for you, then just compare two products side by side. 3A 3 to 4, and then just make a decision. Whatever drives your decision making, like just be confident in it. Like I would just have a hard time investing personally in anything less than like a 3A product or a 3. Mm-hmm. And also you might see a plus designation out there. So like a 3A plus, that plus isn't really recognized by an NIJ, so it's not really being tested by the National Institute of Justice. That's just something that company did independently on their own, and they feel that their product is a higher level at whatever designation they're putting it at. So that's just something else to keep in the back of your mind. I've seen that out there as well.
Interesting.
And you touched on it there, the weight, like, and maybe, modern technologies and just stuff that we're developing makes it like less of a thing. But like, what would be like a 3A versus like a level 4 plate? Like what would you, like, how much more weight are you carrying? Or is it weight and bulk?
So to give you an idea, I of course can only speak to like the plates that I've kind of been around. Yeah. A SAPI plate, the very first plates that I was ever issued were much thinner. I would say maybe 1/2 to 3/4 an inch in thickness, and had to have only weighed about 2.5 pounds. Oh. The ESAPIs, however, were almost a full inch thick, and they were much heavier. I mean, you can see, I have SAPIs at home, but like if you were to hold the two side by side, the ESAPI would be exponentially heavier than that SAPI. Now, because of the timeline between when the ESAPI dropped and like when like now modern level 4 plates are being produced, like a lot of those level 4s are lighter than the SAPIs. Like the regular SAPIs, you know what I mean? Okay. So, like I said, it's really, if you're looking at an armor product, like don't just dive in, just don't see like 3 and add to cart, right? Like really dive into the dimensions relative to like what you're gonna put it in, right? Look at that weight number and what that's coming up as, and you'll be surprised. Like even product to product in the same line will have varying weights, even by the same manufacturer. So it's almost like when you shop for something on Amazon or something like that, like you get all the stats. Like just look at those things, you know what I mean, and make your decision based on like a more informed kind of decision making process.
I mean, one thing that I like when I look at some of your kits that you have set up here is
first off the color, right? Because it's a superior color to any other tactical colors, right? The coyote.
Chris is really into the whole FDE coyote brown thing. It's just
let's jot that down.
I thought wolf gray was the new coyote. Okay. No.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
No,
right now.
It's not worth it.
It's not. Orange isn't the new pink. Jim, you have a plate carrier.
I do. Yeah.
It's not coyote though, so it's like
no, it's not.
It doesn't. Well, what color is
not
yours?
as effective.
It's black, so it goes really great with my blue Adidas tracksuit.
Oh, man.
I love.
Whose car
it was the
take?
only color available. This is in these times it's been.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
At times it's been difficult to find stuff. I could only add black to cart, and I did.
Hey,
I didn't know what was going to happen. I was getting ready for a full on. I was getting ready for a full on storming of my castle,
and luckily you haven't needed it
That's
yet.
fair.
But
I
can say this. I'm not going to shame you. You're more prepared than I am. I probably shouldn't let the world know that. Now I have to get a carrier.
Now you do. Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan.
Well, we talked about you not having an AR for a real long time, and you're still here, so.
That's true.
Now you have an AR, and, as far as anybody knows, you might be working on the suppressor thing, and then you're going to have a plate carrier, and
maybe this is all some
howdy.
sort of elaborate ruse.
Oh, maybe it is. As to not get killed in the
Mark's
streets.
just, well, you know what he's doing? He's just egging them on. He wants
That's what he is.
it
That's what he's doing, yeah.
Come and
You
get
are
me.
an enthusiast.
I like it.
But so here's where I was going. I love backpacks, Jim, and I love how
Yes, you do.
they carry your things. And this is in my mind, at least the way I perceive something. It's like, yes, you've got the carrier, you've got the protection if you need it, but it's also keeping you organized. I like that. You don't just have like willy-nilly megs, or you're like trying to like, like, oh, I'll put one in my back pocket, or I'll put one here, or I'll stuff like.
You're the least organized person I know. I'm sorry. That's why I made the face.
Unless I'm loading my backpack, then I take
I
take great care. What would you say would be like a baseline of things that a person would carry with them? Like, I see you got a med kit here. You've talked about it multiple times. Is that like just like a no exception? Like, are you always going to have a med kit on your carrier?
I would have at least a tourniquet and maybe like something I can stick into a wound. So like gauze or, some kind of hemostatic or something like that. Absolute minimum, right? Now, you don't have to pack yours out like I do.
Chris loves med stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and I was going to say, but you might, like, let's say this was part of your, I don't know, maybe you do, maybe you don't keep it in your truck all the time. Or maybe you just have a med kit in your truck. But like if you're trained and you have those kind of capabilities, the empowerment that you have to help somebody, like I would think you're more likely to use this piece than this piece.
100%.
On any given day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, I mean, I think about how many times you roll up on car accidents or, someone needs a Band-Aid or something like that, or you encounter a mass bleed rather than like the need to like shoot a bullet at someone, right? So yeah, I would definitely, I think medical I put pretty high up there.
Yeah.
Now,
people underestimate that so much.
Oh, for sure.
I can't even iterate it enough.
For sure.
Even when you're out in the middle of nowhere. Like I drove by, I'm sorry, I'm totally derailing, but I drove by this spot.
I think we have a new podcast topic.
I drove by this spot. This was a while ago, a long time ago. I'm driving by. Now, unfortunately, I was on top of like a big hill, and the hill was dropping off to my right. And you're on the driver's side, the left side of the car, although for me, sometimes that's the right. I'm on the left side of the car. I can't see down the hill, and I just kind of keep going through the traffic light. Go to the gas station, get gas, come back. At that same spot, there's all these now fire engines, ambulances, cop cars, all this stuff. Well, down the hill, and I could see it now because I'm coming up at a different angle. Down the hill, there was a Cadillac Escalade upside down, wheels up. I drove right by it. Now, granted, had I seen it, I'd have been able to jump out and maybe help, but, you have stuff on you. I didn't think that's a spot I'd never expect to see a car upside down. There's no, it's not a fast speed. It's not anything. It's just crazy stuff. Okay, sorry.
No.
I tell that story.
I've encountered bleeders a lot, man, and you just need to be ready to stop bleeding more than anything.
Yeah, for sure.
So for professionally, right, I always thought medical, a means to communicate, right? So like a radio pouch or a way to carry a radio, whatever radio you were issued or that you've invested in personally. Make sure that you can carry it and can wire it up and have a push to talk and the ability to like listen, like route wires and do all that stuff like on your plate carrier is pretty nice. So med, comms, and then ammo, right?
Okay.
How much of it are you going to carry? Man, on this thing, I would attach 8 rifle magazines too, like insanely heavy, right? And then that went to 6, and then that quickly went to 3, especially when I started introducing complementary things like a belt, right? Like I took a lot of the weight off my shoulders and kind of distributed on my body a little more. Yeah, I think if you allow those 3 things to kind of like guide your decision-making process as far as what you're going to attach to your plate carrier, yeah, I think you'd be pretty successful.
Yeah.
I keep my setups pretty simple because like you, I feel like if whatever is not attached to my person, I can just throw in a pack and just grab and go.
Right.
There are even plate carriers that have integrated backpacks into them, where of course now the only downside being that you have to take it off to get to that stuff or have one of your buddies get to it. But
okay, sure.
And also you're married to that pack.
Exactly.
That's what I would say. Like you said, you might want to ditch it for a little bit.
Right.
And I love modularity because somebody comes out with something new constantly.
Right.
And if you get that one thing, then somebody else comes out with a new pack, but you like the plate carrier, well, you're stuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you have one option here.
That one way over there
doesn't have a plate. Like it's
Any armor.
Yeah. Okay. What's going on? Grab that one.
Yeah. So I have a couple
carrier?
other things. Yeah. This is just like a grab and go kind of setup. This is a shout out to my wife for hooking me up for Father's Day with this Faro setup. And Nori, I love you. And this is a bandolier that actually fits around your body and kind of hangs there like this.
Oh wow!
Your mags are hanging out upside down.
Yes, but it's actually really surprisingly really good retention on these things. So
I believe it. It's got to be.
Yeah. So something like this, like I just kind of keep co-located with my rifle, kind of in my area.
Does that hang up here, like up high?
So it just kind of hangs up. So if I were to put it on, it just hangs up like this, like that, and I can like this. Yes, like this. So it's a really ergonomic way to get to the magazine. This is from a company called IC13. It's an invert. It's something that I ran pretty often when I was in North Carolina. I ran and owned Spec Train. I really like them because there is just a quick thing that you can run on. Now this is like no armor, right? Like so.
Oh, yeah.
All this is a means to carry bullets and medical, right? Because this is a pull-out medical kit. I've got a tourniquet on here somewhere. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so, if I had to grab bullets and medical in a hurry, in a pinch, boom, I've got that. Now this is just another way to do that. But these little panels here are actually, like a lot of them actually do have the means to carry armor in them, like small little panels in them.
Oh.
And now like companies like Premier do make products where you can just insert a quick soft body armor panel, and I've even seen like small panels about this big that
just
are
a little baby
that are 3A and level 3 protection plates that are like that big. In fact, this guy here has dedicated pockets for side plates.
Oh, wild!
Yeah. So it's basically just if you took like a regular E or a regular sappy plate and just shrunk it. Now it's like this size. It fits in a little pocket right here, just kind of protect your sides. That general kind of same size will fit in a lot of these style of carriers. I don't know. I haven't dove into this one a whole lot, but in here I just have medical and a little admin pouch that for me, I use this when we're putting on night vision training. So I just have like chem lights and like little tools. Like I'll keep my multitasker in here, just like stuff that I need and I can get to pretty quickly. This is more like an admin setup, but yeah, it's great for like grab and go as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there are options out there. I haven't found an option to armor the invert yet, but I'm sure someone might be working on that.
It's funny because I think to myself, almost even a little bit like, why bother putting the armor in here if it's going to be like 3 inches by 5 inches? But I suppose if you look at I'm not all that big, but if you look at one's chest and the vital region of it,
yeah,
maybe.
Might be worth it.
Not a whole lot bigger than that 3 inch by 5 inch rectangle.
Right.
And if you get hit somewhere else, that's at least, that's not that's a longer timer.
It ain't good.
Yep. Oh yeah.
It's a longer timer than it would be if they hit you right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So high mobility, little protection, maybe less mobility, all of the protection, right? Or some of these other plate carriers. So I mean, it's like that's that game you have to play for your what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'll throw this one out there too. You did mention like backpacks and stuff. Backpacks you can also get with armor that slides in. Obviously then it is a backpack at that point. You don't have anything maybe on your front, but that can come in handy for a number of reasons. You could we've discussed in a home defense scenario, perhaps if you got your family in a corner of a hard room or something like that, then and you can put them in that corner and sort of they can use that as like a shield. That's almost armor that you can just deploy in any means because it can just slip right off your back and you can set it places or get behind it or something like that. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I've got a couple Vortex bags that I'll bring in for demonstrations during home defense. Also take a home defense class. Anyway, yeah, that's exactly what I show. Is I show that those backpacks can be pretty valuable. Think about like sending your kiddos to school and just telling them, hey, if something bad starts to happen, just go grab your backpack and put it over you, okay? It doesn't have to be super heavy or anything like that, but just a conversation about just being better prepared in a situation where something like that may happen. And yeah, certainly I keep a pretty large Vortex bag in my kids' room, and that has armor and it has a bunch of other stuff in it that I can just grab and say, hey, go hang out in the corner and put this over you. And there, if the situation ever arose, or if like we're out on a hike and something happens, like we have the means to have some armor and it's right there on your back. Yeah, maybe not so much for me, but more like for like my wife, and like here, like use this and kind of keep it over you and the kids. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's a lot of different, a lot of cool products out there, and a lot of these companies will sell it as like a package. So like if you're looking at a backpack for one of your kids or even for yourself, you can buy the bag, and also like the very next thing is the panel or the plate for that bag. So yeah, a lot of these websites, manufacturers are really user friendly to kind of pair things together with.
That's
nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did we miss anything, Mark?
Not that I'm aware of.
Off your list?
No. Checked them all.
Sweet.
Checked them all. Nailed it.
Hopefully we addressed some of the things that other people out there who are thinking about getting a plate carrier and some armor and stuff like that. Maybe you were wondering about these very things, but you get to hear it from a guy who's worn an awful lot of it. Yeah, I got to wear mine more. Chris, let me ask you this. Now, there's a time to train with armor, and there's a time to train without armor. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah.
Because I know when we teach classes, like our carbine pipeline, our pistol pipeline, etc., sometimes folks will show up with armor, and it's not like I'm not poking fun at them, not anything, but they do because they're like, well, this is a chance to do it. I feel like you kind of have to, isolate them in some regards, because if you're always working with armor, then maybe you're always having to maybe work around that armor and kind of fight with it. It can add a level of discomfort and complexity.
Right.
And that might distract from just learning shooting.
Yeah, and see, and that's
right.
and that's what it equates to for me. Like, yeah, there was a time where I was like, everything I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be hard. I'm gonna have my armor on, and I'm, super like alpha male kind of mindset. But the more that I've had to, like, especially in the last 2 years, and really injecting performance into my skill set, like I've really had to like rethink a lot of things, right? So what I recommend to people is like, figure out how to do it right. And the it is like anything, like drawing your handgun or reloading. Figure out how to do that right, slick, right? Put the time in, the reps in, and then just put the armor on, right? And then it isn't like starting from scratch all over again, 2 different processes, like first armor, then figuring out how to do it slick. Like you figure out how to do it slick, and all you're doing with the armor is just figuring out how to work with it, right? Which is why like cut and fitment is like a huge deal for me, right? I need to be able to move in this stuff, especially the way I'm kind of like built and designed. Like I can't do certain things, and they're gonna feed how I perform certain mechanics in shooting, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna figure out how to do it right, then I'm gonna figure out how to do it fast, and then if you have this stuff, figure out how to do it in armor. You know what I mean? And then put the reps in all 3 of those contexts and just be good at it. You know what I mean?
How much do you find that you have to sort of modify when you're wearing armor? Your typical thing that you've learned slick.
So my thinking before used to be that I need to put my pouches, my magazines, my stuff on my plate carrier because I have to get to it. That's my first line. Well, the more that I've kind of run both, right, like a belt and a plate carrier together, I'm starting to realize like my belt stuff, right, can be kind of my emergency reloads and stuff like that, right? Understanding that I can ditch this, but that belt's probably going to have to come with me. So I still need to be able to train to get to these things without exhausting everything on my belt, right? So a lot of people will slap these pouches on here and not have any awareness of like how my hand has to move to retrieve certain things at certain angles. So you can certainly like find your uniformity, make it aesthetically pleasing. But man, you gotta be able to get to your stuff.
It's gotta work.
Yeah, it's gotta work for you.
Do you find it all that you learn and you train with no armor on, shooting a pistol, for example, and you're like, I'm shooting a pistol the right way. Like, I'm doing well. This is how I want to be shooting a pistol. And then you put the armor on and you're like, I can't do that anymore. Or is it usually once you find the right way to shoot that when you put the armor on, is it pretty natural that it integrates? Obviously, you're a little uncomfortable. You might have to do a few things, but are you ever like, oh, shoot, the way that I was firing a AR-15 before, I can't do anymore because now I've got armor on?
Yeah, I would say...
Maybe that's extreme. I don't know.
I would say my observations have been that once I figure out how to shoot well in whatever, rifle, pistol, even long range, all I'm having to do with armor is just maybe figure out how to get to a magazine, or figure out that maybe I need to shorten the stock on my rifle by a notch. Everything else is the same.
Okay.
Right? With the exception of again, like if you're in an institution that preaches like, locking your elbows out, if you have shoulder protection and a maximized like kind of footprint for your plate carrier or your armor, it might drive how you learn how to perform even the simplest tasks of like even just drawing your gun and presenting it on target.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I find that it's just best just learn how to shoot accurately, learn how to shoot accurately fast, learn how to do it right, mechanically speaking. Throw the armor on, then you figure out how to do it with the armor on. And like I said, typically it's just as easy as like letting your sling out like an inch or two and maybe shortening your stock. But beyond that, like in my experience, like I've not had to like reinvent the wheel.
Cool. It makes perfect. It's like I know how to do it right. Like once you like said, and then get faster at it. And then when you transition to with the plate carrier, it's like, oh, now I just have to make this adjustment to do it right.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's it. And it's usually
like you have that baseline.
Right. And it's usually not a major adjustment once you put the armor on.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right on. Sweet.
I like it, Jim. I like that little. I know we're kind of closing there, but I like that. It was good.
Throw that in.
It was a good little add-on.
Well, Marco.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Tons of great information. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hopefully, you learned something. I know I did. I've been thinking about this. I'm thinking about it more. As I always say, we do these podcasts, Jim. I just have more to think about.
Come down and put this stuff on, man.
They're really
lock it in.
Let's
do
really
it.
enlighten people, especially Mark, on how to spend their money.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
I'm poor now. The Vortex Nation podcast has driven me into poverty, but look at all the stuff.
Boy, am I ready!
Already.
But what are you guys doing out there? What are your thoughts? Have you been thinking about this? Have you already done it? What have you learned along the way? Let us know. Until next time.
See you on the next one.
See you on the next one.
Until next time, see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.
Bye. There you have it, folks. Thank you very much for listening. As usual, give this video a like if you liked it, comment something below, and give us a subscribe to the Vortex Nation podcast channel. It would mean a lot to us. Also, why don't you give us a follow over on Instagram while you're at it, at Vortex Nation Podcast. We'd love to hear from you over there, and we'll keep you updated with all kinds of cool photos and videos from our adventures that we do here. Otherwise, we will see you on the next one. Thank you again. Happy hunting and shooting, everybody. Have a good one.